Guten Tag alle, Herr Wallis here. Today we're going to talk about the comparative and superlative in German, and before we begin, let's go over some basic rules. Okay, the first rule is all German adjectives form the comparative by adding an er to the end of the root adjective. So for example, schnell ist schneller, oder laut ist lauter, oder klein ist kleiner. Okay, if the adjective is one syllable long and has an A over U, then these adjectives get umlauts. For example, lang, länger, stark, stärker, alt, älter. Okay. Another rule is there are two ways to form the superlative in German, so you should know that at the start. Schnellster, or you can say am schnellsten using the adjective schnell. There are some differences in how these are used, and we'll talk about that more a little bit later. And fourthly, if the adjective ends in a td, ss, or eu, then you would add an extra e before the sten or sta in the superlative. So for example, kalt, which ends in a t, becomes kältester oder am kältesten, or net, another example, nettester, am nettesten. An example of a double S would be heiß, so heißester, or with an EU would be neu, neuester. Okay, so we're going to look at the comparative and superlative forms of these adjectives, just so you can begin to see how they operate, how they are formed. So we'll start with höflich, polite. If you want to say politer, höflicher, or more polite, I guess, in English. And then the superlative form, höflichster oder am höflichsten. Ruhig, which is calm. So ruhiger, calmer. Ruhigster, am ruhigsten, the calmest. Ordentlich, ordentlicher, ordentlichster oder am ordentlichsten. Schmutzig, dirty, schmutziger, schmutzigster oder am schmutzigsten. Blutig, bloody, blutiger, blutigster oder am blutigsten. Staubig, dusty, staubiger, staubigster oder am staubigsten. Hoch. Hoch is unusual. There are several of these in German that you just have to learn. It doesn't have the C in the comparative form, so it's höher. And then the C comes back here in the superlative. Höchster oder am höchsten. Tief, tiefer, tiefster oder am tiefsten. Good is another example of an adjective that you have to learn. Besser, bester oder am besten. Viel is another adjective that you have to learn. Mehr, more. And the most, meister oder am meisten. And this is also true in English, by the way. You can say much, mucher, and much, muchest. So, wichtig, wichtiger, and wichtigster oder am wichtigsten. Lustig, funny, lustiger, lustigster oder am lustigsten. Weit, here we have an example of an adjective that ends in a T, so remember in the superlative, we're going to add that extra E. Weiteste oder am weitesten. Okay, so now, remember, just like adjectives from which they are formed, the comparative and superlative forms can also take endings to match the case of the noun they are describing. So in the nominative case, which is the subject or the predicate nominative, you're going to have endings that are E with definite articles. The definite article is a fancy way of saying der, die, or das. So when that's present, the adjective will take an E in the nominative, so das schnellste Auto, der schnellste Mann, die schönste Frau, die schönsten Frauen. So you notice they all end in E except for the plural, which will end in en. In the accusative, which is for the direct object or after accusative prepositions such as durch, für, gegen, ohne, and So for these, they are going to basically mirror the nominative with the exception of masculine nouns. So you can see that here, ich sehe das schnellste Auto, ich sehe den schnellsten Mann. And there you see that the masculine noun Mann is changing to den, as it would do. And then the adjective, in this case our superlative form, is also taking the en ending. And the others are staying the same to the nominative. The dative, which is for indirect objects or after dative prepositions, the good news is all of the adjectives here will end in en, regardless. So, ich fahre mit dem schnellsten Auto, ich laufe mit dem schnellsten Mann, ich tanze mit der schönsten Frau und ich tanze mit den schönsten Frauen. Okay, so the one case that's not covered here is the genitive, and we'll get to that later. Okay, so determine the correct ending for the superlative or comparative form of the adjective. Remember, in the superlative, you have two forms. The only form that is used to describe nouns is the sta form. So you would not, for example, say, hat das am schnellsten Auto in der Welt? You would have to say, hat das schnellste Auto in der Welt? You have the dirtiest dog in the neighborhood. Du hast den schmutzigsten Hund in der Nachbarschaft. The prettiest lady has said hello to me. Die schönste Frau hat mir Hallo gesagt. You have the bluest eyes that I have ever seen. Du hast die blauesten Augen, die ich je gesehen habe. Nummer 5. Er spricht mit der lautesten Stimme, die ich je gehört habe. He is the netteste Mann in der Welt. Wir sitzen in dem größten Zimmer des Hauses. Here is his dative because we have the two-way preposition in, and remember with two-way prepositions, if you're describing where something is located at, you're going to use the dative. Thus, das Zimmer is dem, and then the en ending on our adjective. Bitte ist das wichtigste Wort zu lernen. Okay? And then in number 9, our class is the indirect object in this sentence, so therefore dative. That's why die Klasse is der. And then we have the en ending. Ich werde der besten Klasse eine Party geben. And you should climb the highest mountain. Du sollst den höchsten Berg hochklettern, perhaps, okay? Good. Okay, so now we're going to try some simple sentences here, converting from English to German. If you want to try them on your own, do so. Pause the video. Hier sind die Antworten. Here are the answers. He is not as polite as he should be. Er ist nicht so höflich, wie er sein soll. In this particular case, wie is acting as a subordinating conjunction, sending the first verb, which is soll, to the end. So the normal order for that is er soll sein. But because of wie, it's er sein soll. Are you faster than your brother? Bist du schneller als dein Bruder? Who is the greatest player of all time? Wer ist der größte Spieler aller Zeit? That is the best story. Das ist die beste Geschichte. She has the prettiest eyes that I have ever seen. Sie hat die schönsten Augen, die ich je gesehen habe. Oder die ich jemals gesehen habe. He has arms longer than my legs. Er hat Arme länger als meine Beine. So this is just a short review over the superlative, comparative, and also showing a little bit of how they also match the noun they are describing in the superlative form, at least in determined by the case of the noun they are describing. So vielen Dank für das Zuschauen. I hope this helped you in your ongoing quest to better understand the German language. Auf Wiedersehen.